Good morning. Well, I wanted to talk today about our selective memory and how it ties with forgiveness, and if we can accept the choices we're always making to feel hurt and abused and attacked, how we can make a lot more progress. So I was inspired because I've been reading Bill Thetford's biography by Carol Howe called Never Forget to Laugh, which is a wonderful book. And I think I've read it 2 or 3 times, and I just recently returned to it. And as always, I'm always getting more from whatever I read around A Course in Miracles. Seeing new things or receiving new clarity. And one of the things that happened when Bill and Helen were working together, and Helen was scribing the course and Bill was helping her, is they would get a lot of personal messages. And those were eventually edited out of what we know as our final official Course in Miracles edition. But it's still out there. All those notes are still out there in the public domain. And they're also available if you get Absence from Felicity, which is Ken Wapnick's book about the scribing of the course and Helen and Bill. And in this book by Carol, she includes some of the private notes. Her story is really focused on Bill, who hasn't had as much attention as Helen. So she's really selecting things that share his story. But I was really struck and personally impacted by Jesus's note through Helen. These messages would come as writing like the Course did through Helen, but they would be aimed at Bill and illuminate things that Bill needed to see. So Jesus was like the older brother, but he was working with the two of them, on each of them, to help them, as they were willing, understand why they were experiencing what they were experiencing, what was happening in their relationship, which was very conflict-ridden, and how to, look at things differently by facing the truth of the situation. So he was doing with them individually what he is doing with us in the Course in Miracles. And also, let's just remember he's still there for us in our minds right now to work with us. And I feel that that's what he's doing with us. And so he's really present. He's here. And so he's working with my mind. And so as I get illuminated a little bit more, I like to share with you as I can. So I'm going to try to, sometimes it's hard for me to put into words, but so he tells Bill that he needs to realize that he has selectively chosen the memories that he will repeat to himself and others over and over and over about his relationships. In particular, he had an angry father who he felt very emotionally abandoned by. And Jesus says this about an incident that we don't really know the details of because that's not described, but it must be something that Bill told his colleagues and friends over and over throughout his life. First, Jesus points out that of all the things that Bill could have learned from his parents, he didn't take on a lot of things. He was very different in his lifestyle than they were. He didn't take on their political beliefs. He became a very successful professional person in the academic world, and professionally, whereas they were very poor and came from a very blue collar sort of lifestyle. All these things that he did not take on, and yet what did he take on? He took on what he perceived as their misperceptions of him, right? That's even kind of crazy. And repeated them over and over and over. So here's this story. There must be some acute problem of his own, of Bill's own, that would make him so eager to accept their misperception of his own worth. So Jesus is saying, hey, you must have a problem if you're so excited to take on somebody's bad idea of you, right? You overlook a million other things, but why do you glom onto that one? This tendency can always be regarded as punitive. Wow, that's weird, right? Our tendency to glom on to the bad that we hear about ourselves can always be regarded as punitive. Punitive to whom? Well, both. I feel that he means to both of us. I'm punishing the world by saying, look, I am what you made of me, or my parents. I am what you made of me, asshole. If you think I'm an asshole, well, guess what? The apple didn't fall far from the tree. But I'm also punishing myself. And I'm saying, I'm bad, I'm bad, I'm bad, right? So there's a punitive cause, and it's me doing it. So I'll skip a little and talk about the incident. When Bill's father came to his new office and destroyed it, it is quite apparent that Bill must have been willing to let it be destroyed. Okay, why is that? This is what really got me. Why did I let it be destroyed? Okay, hold that thought. The many times that he has commented on this event alone would suggest the extreme importance of this misperception in his own distorted thinking. Why should anyone accord an obvious misperception with so much power? There cannot be any real justification for it, because even Bill himself recognized the real problem by saying, how could he do this to me? The answer is he didn't. Okay, let's back up. How come Jesus is saying when Bill's father came to his new office and, quote, destroyed it, quote, it is apparent that Bill must have been willing to let it be destroyed? Well, what happened to my mind when I read that again last night is that I realized, wait a minute. If we return to this idea that we are living scripts that are already written, then there are a lot of scripts I could be playing out, and I played this one. And what's a dead giveaway here is that I keep telling everybody about it. So I'm very invested that he do something bad to me if I'm Bill. You know, I have my own story, you have your own story. But I keep telling everybody in the world about it, and out of all the scripts that are in the can, I'm playing this one. And not only that, I'm reinforcing it over and over and over and over and over. Whereas many other incidents have come and gone, and I don't even remember them. My memory is so poor right now. I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday. But boy, I sure remember when my third grade teacher, like I said the other day, when she said, "Who do you think you are?" Oh man, I remember like it was yesterday. Why is that? That's really important for us to know. It's not a mistake, and it's not random, and it's deliberate. And later, Jesus goes on and talks about how it's actually narcissistic. That we we feel that our insistence on being unworthy is this weird form of humility that we think is okay or good. And Jesus is saying, no, it's actually arrogance and narcissism. It's the ego trying to perpetuate itself. And it can only do that by pointing the accusing finger at somebody else and reinforcing this lie over and over and over again. That really has invited my mind to level up, as I say, and invite a new review with the spirit of everything I ever thought had happened to me. And to begin to release my interpretation that it happened to me and accept the spirit's invitation to see I chose it because I'm afraid of love, because there were a million other scripts I could be playing out, and I'm playing out this one, and I'm reinforcing it, and I'm using my life to be its witness. Wow, what am I witnessing to? The ego. Jesus says something else in this section I wanted to mention, and he refers to the resurrection, right? So, unlike the message from traditional Christianity, Jesus did not die for our sins, in terms of A Course in Miracles teachings. That's not what Jesus says happened at all. Rather, he demonstrated by his resurrection that it didn't have any effect, right? So we have to really allow an undoing of a very old idea about the crucifixion and the resurrection. So Jesus points it out right here that, hey, it all comes back to this idea. Bill has a very serious question to ask himself in this connection. We said before that the purpose of the resurrection was to, quote, demonstrate that no amount of misperception has any influence at all on a son of God. So what does he mean? He means it doesn't matter what people think of you, what they say to you, what they do to you, however their own filters are misperceiving you. It has zero influence on you. Not on the level of who you are. This demonstration, which is the resurrection, this demonstration exonerates those who misperceive by establishing beyond doubt that they have not hurt anyone. What does that mean? It means if your misperception of me has no effect, then can it even be real? This is so freeing if we can get this. Jesus is saying it's only because you keep pretending that these misperceptions have effects, that they are real to you, and you can't see your brother's innocent, and you don't know who they are, and you don't know who they are. But Jesus was demonstrating that a misperception is nothing. Not even if you seem to be putting a nail in a wrist or an ankle, is anything real happening. So therefore, there's no cause, because it has no effect. And if there's no cause, what are we upset about? And who's guilty if there's no cause? It's pretty radical. Then he goes on and he says, okay, so let's read that sentence again. This demonstration exonerates those who misperceive by establishing beyond doubt that they have not hurt anyone. Bill's question, which he must ask himself very honestly, and this is the question for all of us, is whether he is willing to demonstrate that his parents have not hurt him. Unless he's willing to do this, he has not forgiven them. Wow. Okay, so there it is. There's what the Course, that's the Course teaching right there. Until our mind is so open and free that we can see that no one has ever hurt us, that there is no cause here. Cause meaning there's nothing that has had an effect. Until we're in that place, we are still, well, we're still learning our lessons, right? And every situation that comes up becomes a forgiveness lesson, right? So that's why it becomes relentless, or it seems like it is, because we're not willing yet to give up the idea that this world is causeless. So I used to get really frustrated because my mind could see, wow, day by day, it's like a mathematical function. You know what a mathematical function is? It's like a machine, and it's really math, right? But whatever variable you put into the machine, into the function, it turns out an answer. And I realized my day was like a mathematical function. Whatever happened, I was churning out a forgiveness lesson, and it was just over and over and over and over and over. And why was that? And why is that? It's because I'm not willing yet to see that the world is causeless, because I'm still invested in my ego, which means I still need the world to be causing me my problems. Otherwise, the whole thing falls apart. I can't maintain my identity as a separate self. But the real issue is that I'm afraid of the light. Okay, so this is where it's leading. We have to even go further and say, okay, it's not just that no one affects me. It's that I set this whole thing up for a purpose. And the deep, deep purpose is I'm afraid of the light. And if we can just begin to voice that every time we get upset, then we surface the fear and the rage a little bit. And then the light can come in. And the light is very gently warming our heart, so to speak. Just kind of melting away the ice little bit by little bit, kind of sneaks in while we think we're doing our lessons. This light sneaks in and loves us. And we start to have experiences more of the light of who we are. And people begin to feel it. So I hope this was helpful, this idea that our memory has been selective, that there's a hidden agenda, and that it's punitive because the ego is punitive. It says, you did this to me, I am what you created I am what you made me. And it also says, I am such a asshole loser, at the same time. Unworthy of God. And that all of that is deeper down than that is a very narcissistic, egoic thought that's continually self-referencing, like being mesmerized by that reflection, like Narcissus was in the pond, in the lake, because that's the only way to keep it real, is to just keep reinforcing it. And that is happening because we're afraid of the light. Because if we don't have that image, then we have nothing to defend ourselves from that light, and it'll gobble us up. That's the ego's version. But actually, the light is with us now. It's all that's with us now. And as we learn together and join together in this truth, it really, truly is just melting away this resistance and fear, even when we think nothing's happening. So put the Holy Spirit in charge of your day today. And if you forgot this morning, you can do it now. And remember that He walks with you. And you can hold His hand as He leads us through our dreams of separation. And there is no loss. And that you are worthy and you are loved, and you have never sinned. You just had a dream where you insisted that what could never be true was true because you were afraid of the light. And with that, my friends, I will say goodbye for now, and I will talk to you again soon.